Welcome to the Moneyball Clinic. I took the top 30 leagues, simulated them in full detail, then smashed it all together to create an aggregated database. This will be the baseline from which I'll recommend signings at a variety of levels and budgets. Wingers come in all different shapes, sizes, and archetypes. Creators, goal scorers, crossers, and my favourite, Dribbly boys. They're also one of the most expensive positions to recruit, so I found 9 of them, all available at the beginning of the game, whose performances are much higher than expected for their transfer value. We'll be taking a look at a wide range of profiles, so I'll point out which metrics they excel in, how they could be utilised, and which of the following teams they'd be willing to join. Up first, Peterborough's David Ajiboye. The 24-year-old can play on either flank and is available for just €80,000. In the 70th percentile for dribbles and the 80th percentile for shots, Ajiboye is a nightmare for opposition defenders and adept at getting into goal-scoring positions. This is supported by his physical profile and ball control skills. Whilst his crossing is less than ideal, this is mitigated by his tendency to cut inside. He isn't a big game player. Ajiboye is a bargain for anyone looking for an inside forward around the J-League or Swiss Super League level. Next, Stade Lauzanne's Mergim Qarri. The 28-year-old can play on either flank or behind the striker and is available for around $250k. In the 90th percentile for expected assists and the 80th percentile for shots, Qarri gets involved in the actions that matter most. He's no defensive slouch either, with above average contributions to pressures and tackles won. Solid across the board technically, the only real knock on Qarri is his finishing and perhaps his lack of traits. He does, however, have the full suite of adaptability, big matches and consistency. Qarri is at his best in a wide creative role. Advanced playmaker, wide playmaker, supporting inverted winger. Would be a good signing around championship level. To France and Grenoble's Abdoulie Sanyang, otherwise known as Bamba. The Gambian international can play anywhere across the front line, and surprisingly at right wing back. He can be yours for a shade under 600k. In the 65th percentile for dribbles and tackles won, his pizza chart is underwhelming. It appears, as his shirt number implies, he was in fact being used mostly at wingback. The reason he made my initial shortlist was his impressive 17% cross success rate, so I wanted to dig a little further. I took over at Grenoble, set him up as a left winger, and went on holiday. The result was exactly as expected. Bamba has a very specific set of skills, namely getting the ball out of his feet and whipping it into the box. He's quite good at it. Let's just pause this here. One thing I liked in particular is what I'm going to call good panicking. As the defender shapes to engage, Bamba puts in the cross instead of trying to dribble it further. It's a recurring theme, cross before the opportunity is lost. He is not completely one track though, a capable finisher when presented with chances, and every now and then he'd do something a little magic. Bamba is a great example of what Moneyball is all about. If you're looking for a traditional left-footed winger, he's a bargain, and could easily do a job at, say, an Austrian Bundesliga or Belgian Pro League level. Sporting Gijon's Fran Villalba next. The 25-year-old can play anywhere in midfield and as a striker in an emergency. Available for $1.5 million. Villalba has a shortlist leading 0.31 expected assists, good enough for the 95th percentile. In the 80th percentile for progressive passes, he is a player who can drop deep and help him build up too. With elite flair and vision and a penchant for a killer ball, Villalba has the attribute profile you'd expect to find far above the Segunda Division. Moreover, he's consistent too. He would definitely fit a lower to mid-table La Liga side, or maybe just outside the top 5 leagues like the Eredivisie or Liga Portugal. Like Qarri earlier, he is crying out for a creative role. To Brazil and Cruzeiro's Mateus Vital. The 25-year-old again offers flexibility in attacking positions and boasts a fairly professional personality. yours for €3.3 million. His attacking metrics obviously stand out, above the 75th percentile for all, but don't sleep on his defensive contributions, all above the 50th percentile. He's good at all the things you'd expect from a winger, and bad at all the things you'd expect from a winger, like determination and teamwork. His tendency to dwell on the ball might give pause, but it's clearly not hindering his performance. Mateus Vital is a star in a top 7 league, and that gives confidence he can make the step up to the top 5. Not necessarily at the very elite level, but more than good enough for those fighting for European qualification and looking for an inside forward. For a little bit more, Austria weans Manuel Polster. The 20-year-old can play anywhere on the left or up front, and is available for €4 million. In the 85th percentile for goals and 90th for headers won, Polster is definitely a box threat. He doesn't dribble much, but a 16.2% cross success rate shows he can supply when found in space. So it's a good thing he's quick. Elite acceleration helps to cover up his technical shortcomings, of which there are many. The Austrian Gabi Agbonlahor. He is, however, consistent. Polster is raw, but a great development prospect for a mid-table team in a top 5 league, somewhere he isn't expected to start every game. Next up, Argentinos Juniors Alan Rodriguez. The 23-year-old Uruguayan is more inclined to play in central positions, but can play anywhere across the midfield. Available for €4 million. Indeed, he has the performance profile of a midfielder, in the 90th percentile for expected assists and all possession metrics except dribbling. He is not a goal threat. Which isn't a surprise. He's slow, can't finish, and doesn't like big matches. He can, consistently, do pretty much everything else. Rodriguez would make for a very good wide playmaker for a team outside of the top 5 leagues. He can create, he can cross, he's safe on the ball. We're staying in Argentina for Benjamin Dominguez. The 19-year-old Gimnasia winger can play on either flank and will cost you €9 million. He's our dribbliest boy. 3.37 dribbles per 90 is good for the 75th percentile, whilst he's above the 50th percentile in all attacking and defensive metrics. A well-rounded profile, especially considering his age. His attacking attributes could do with some work, but his desire to run at the opposition and try tricks makes for a very exciting player. Like Polster, he's not ready for the very top. Unlike Polster, he is ready to start a lot of games, ideally outside the top 5 leagues as an inverted winger. For someone who loves a dribbly boy, I've not suggested many, so before I reveal my top recommendation, here are some honourable mentions. Players who've been identified and discussed in previous Moneyball clinics for specific teams. Alvaro Jallo, Lucas Asadi, Jakub Kaminski from the Sevilla episode. Samuel Ballet, Liza Huerta, Ezequiel Zaballos from the Frankfurt episode. Isaiah Jones from Chelsea Part 2. And Zuriko Davitashvili and Youssef Sari from the Fenerbahce episode. Coincidentally, Turkey is where we find my top recommendation, Galatasaray's Kerem Aktürkoğlu. The 24-year-old perfectionist can play anywhere across the front line and will set you back €14.5 million. For that, you get a creative goal scorer, in the 85th percentile for goals, 75th for expected assists. His 1.54 open play key passes and 18.5% cross success rate leads this shortlist, as does his 13.17 pressures. Kerem is quick off the mark, has elite movement and the agility to operate in tight spaces, the vision to support his love of killer balls. A consistent, big game player. So let's take a closer look. We can immediately see why he scores so many. Kerem is aggressive at getting into the box and picks up those opportunities close to goal. He's not too bad from further out too. When presented with space, he can drive forward and has the presence of mind to play the right pass rather than just hanging across. What I liked in particular was a very specific type of pass. We can see he picks the ball outside the area. Adana Demirspor have overcommitted on the left-hand side here, but that does mean they can cut out the through ball to Icardi. Ndombele is free, but this defender here can probably get across to cover if we play the pass now. Instead, Kerem carries towards the key defender to force him to engage, before releasing the ball. And that is a goal. It's something we saw time and time again. Players drawn towards Kerem unselfishly finding the free man. If Demirbay could shoot, it would be devastating. This is an elite player who costs less than a fifth of a Mudryk. Sure, that's not necessarily a fair comparison, because Kerem can do it all. Someone who stays wide and crosses, cuts inside and shoots, or drifts around and creates. In fact, you'll find out what I plan to do with him in a few weeks' time. So there we have it, 9 wingers. Was there anyone in particular who piqued your interest? Or maybe you've come across someone in your saves that you'd like to recommend? Let me know in the comments, and see you next time.